Hi, and welcome to this week's UMIP Community Review call. This week we have one UMIP to review to add with on the Optimism network. I'm just going to bring up the document. Okay, so this is to add with on Optimism. The main discussion, it's a very simple UMIP, simply adding it to the collateral whitelist. The main issue was whether it should go in as an UMIP or as a UPP to change UMIP 10. Yeah, John, who wrote this, isn't actually available on this call. Sean, I know that you suggested that it should go in as full UMIP.
Yep. I mean, it's just following the standards that we have where UPPs are never really for new collateral registrations. If we wanted to change that standard to include like UPPs, also including adding currencies that are already registered on mainnet but not on additional chains, that would make sense to me, except for the fact that personally, I just hate the UPP process. Like, I don't really see a point of having the UPP process. It's really just a different format for UMIPs, right? But we have like different UMIP formats already. And there's nothing different about like the on-chain proposal. So I feel like it's almost like a needless conversation and we should just treat it like normal. Thoughts?
I suppose I would push back against that, just in that as we proliferate across chains and want to add different collateral currencies to different chains, we might end up with a whole load of different UMIPs for different collaterals and different chains. Whereas if we keep the add with or add collateral type, we can append those UMIPs as more chains get added, which gives us one place to point people to for that collateral add.
I don't really understand like why UPPs can be appended but UMIPs cannot. Like, I agree there should be a lightweight process to do this, but I'm just saying like even having a discussion about if it should be a UPP or a UMIP is just like practically there's zero difference between the two.
Well, UMIPs don't, UPPs don't create another UMIP.
Yeah, but there's
so
still another vote, right?
Hundreds of UMIPs, we would have, you know, a fraction of those. Would that not be better?
Not in my opinion. Then we would have hundreds of UMIPs and hundreds of UPPs, right? Because you still need a UPP every time. And really, I think we should have never introduced UPPs because all it does is UPPs actually make things more complicated, in my opinion, because it changes the admin numbers to not align with UMIPs, which is one issue I have with UPPs. And also, it's like I was saying before, it's just a different UMIP format. Like we could have a UMIP format for adding collateral currencies to new chains that are already registered on mainnet, and you don't have to add security considerations. You don't have to add anything. I just think we should have like the same process.
That sounds like a sensible approach to have it.
I mean, it's just my opinion. I feel like I'm the only one that feels strongly about this either way, because it is kind of like a non-problem, right? It's really not an issue either way. I just feel like we shouldn't even really discuss it.
Yeah. Okay. So presumably it's a go. I think this
Well,
seems really straightforward, and it's
Yeah,
obvious.
one question
Okay.
I had on this was whether or not use this opportunity to add this on others, like change where there is support, like for example Arbitrum or maybe Boba, and if somebody needs those, we don't need to repeat this process.
yeah, it seems. I completely agree. It just. Yeah, it seems dumb to only have optimism in here. So do we know which additional chains we still need to add it to?
I don't know from demand perspective, but I would expect the ones that are tier 1 like support, like Arbitrum and Boba, should be added there.
Do we not have it on Boba?
You mean at least currently, as far as I tracked, this is supported on mainnet and Polygon. That's maybe I'm wrong, but that was the impression I had.
It was very surprising to me that we didn't have it on Optimism or Arbitrum yet, and I'd be even more surprised about Boba since we have had like KPI options there.
Yeah, I think all of those KP options were using Boba as collateral token.
To be honest, this is kind of coming back to my reasoning for why we should have it as a UPP. That it's just easier to track down if we have one UMIP with all the chains and whitelisting them to the different currencies. Yeah. So each currency has a list of the chains that it's whitelisted on, so that we can see by going to one distinct source that yes, it has been added on Boba, and no, it hasn't been added on Arbitrum.
I just don't get how you get that out of the UPP process and not the UMIP process.
Because like the link UMIP 10 there takes you to the one where it's whitelisted on mainnet. If we did a UPP, we would update UMIP 10 to add in optimism. Whereas if we pass this as an UMIP, we now have UMIP 10 and UMIP 167. And then for later on, if we decide we need it in Arbitrum, but don't do it now, we'll have another UMIP. So you'll potentially have 6 or 7 UMIPs that are all basically add WETH. Whereas if we do it as a UPP, you have UMIP 10, which is add WETH, and then within UMIP 10, you list the chains that you're registering it on.
Yeah, I mean, I think practically it's the same thing, but I really don't care either way. So yeah, we can have this be a UPP. Because like you could also link to other UMIPs from within the UMIP, right? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is an advantage to having separate things for just like UMIP updates, kind of, which is what this is, what you're like framing this as. Yeah. So yeah, we can take that as an item, like change this to a UPP, and then we need to identify exactly the chains that WETH still needs to go on. Brainus, do you think we should be adding other collateral currencies that are missing also, or should we just worry about WETH here?
I think currently, if it's like, yeah, I would say these should be like easier to do, because for There might be cases where it's quite hard, I mean, to track which is like canonical token on for other chains, and that's I would expect a bit of the effort, and I'm just afraid to make any like significant mistake there in that process. But yeah, theoretically it's possible.
I think it would
Perhaps
be
we should
great.
at least check USDC as like the other probably most widely used currency.
Yeah, I would agree to that. Yeah, I think that's doable, at least the most popular ones.
Sorry, Vari, I think I interrupted you.
I was just going to say that I think there's a good case to be made for using this to add in additional collateral currencies in different chains. But I also think that we should be mindful that this is required fairly urgently for a live use case. So maybe it's worth having an aim at some point in the future to actually loop around our collateral currencies and see if we can do like an omnibus collateral add on different chains UPP.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. So let's just make this one WETH and potentially USDC.
On
I think USDC is
optimism,
quite,
arbitrism, and boba.
yeah, and technically Polygon, but I think everything's whitelisted on Polygon. Yeah.
Cool.
And voting starts Thursday, 0100 UTC, right? So we need this merged in by tonight.
Okay. Renus, are you good to track down those contract codes? We also need it changed into UPP, and John is out.
Yeah, that's a bit short of resource on that. So if you limit that to just wrapped ETH, then I think it could be doable.
Do we have
Do
to
that
do this by tonight? It needs merged in by tomorrow night. Today's Tuesday.
No, it's by tonight, I think, because voting is on Thursday. So 24 or I guess 4 announcements. It needs to be tonight. So we're following the normal process.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like we'll get it figured out. This should be a grand total of like 20 minutes of work. So either Rainus or I can do it.
Okay, cool. So we've got.
So Rainus, the other thing is there's nothing different about the Optimism or Arbitrum WETH implementation that would have caused us to not register it in the first place, do you think?
Well, for Arbitrum, I don't think that the only note that I may be not fully like confident is around the actual implementation of address in the for the Optimism and also for the Boba, because that's not like usual contract as we have in other chains, but rather the address of the contract is hard coded in the chain itself. Like for example, on Boba, I think the best contract is like address is like something like that, and on Optimism, it's also not a normal contract address you would expect. But I might miss some background whether or not that creates any issues at all.
Are there any risks around this, given that it's weak, around the merge? Could that cause any issues in layer 2 chains?
No.
No, it shouldn't. Yeah, I would actually opt maybe leaving it for Optimism and Arbitrum now. But as for Boba, I just checked. I cannot like verify the contract source here. So yeah, I don't know. Should we take
Like
this?
the WETH contract is not
Yeah,
verified.
yeah, because that's a hard coded contract, like with address that 00. There's no way to get the contract source code, at least on Bobascan.
Are you on BobaScan or the Boba Block Explorer?
No, there is new Bobascan, so which is
It's not even verified on that one.
no, but yeah, there's no contract bytecode either, at least on Bobascan.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that's fine then. Let's leave it for Optimism and Arbitrum.
Yep.
Okay. Can I suggest that the outcomes is that this is a goal, conditional on changing it to a UPP, and recommendations that there is also WETH added on Arbitrum and Boba, and USDC is added on Optimism, Arbitrum, Boba, and Polygon, if not there.
Sounds good to me. Except for we said no USDC anymore, only WETH.
No USDC,
Yep, just WETH.
just WETH. Okay, cool. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.